Welcome back to One on One with Mr. U. Of course, I'm your host, Mr. U. In studio with us, entrepreneur, health coach, model. You might know him for a different reason as well. Adam Willard's in the house with us this morning. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Same here, man. Good to have you here, man. We had an awesome conversation for our pre-interview. A lot to get into, so trust me to guide you in this, man. We got a lot to ask you about, so we'll get it all out here in the streets.
Sounds great. Thank
you for agreeing to do this, man. I really appreciate it. Your website, you are a perfect fit for our show, and I think that's will speak volumes about who you are. So I want to get into it. So tell me about Adam's childhood. What was life like in Tulsa? Talk to me about that a little bit.
Childhood was great. You know, I had a really good upbringing. I had parents who really cared. I grew up with two brothers, so there was a lot of fights, a lot of roughhousing, a lot of competition. We all played similar sports. You know, I played baseball and soccer growing up primarily. We also all did piano for anywhere from 5 to 8 years growing up. So there was a lot going on. You know, my mom was basically a taxi service growing up. So it was constant movement, a lot of competition, but a really good upbringing in Tulsa. We lived in the suburbs, so you know, it was a great, you know, safe upbringing. I was pretty ready to get out and spread my wings a little bit after high school, but couldn't be happier for my early childhood.
So talk to me about the transition there, because this is something a little similar to my life. I'm not from the suburbs, so to speak. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, so it's a whole different environment, different situation. But I grew up wanting to play baseball, I wanted to be a New York Yankee. That was my plan in life. My mom wasn't having that. She's from the Virgin Islands, so her mindset is totally different. And she was encouraging me. I was encouraging finger quotes because that's exactly what it was like. It was an encouragement, right, to go into administration finance. You did that. I think you went to the University of Arkansas. Why did you go into baseball when you went into admin and finance instead? What kind of drew you to that path? Was it your mom pushing that, or was it a mindset shift for you? What was that?
So I knew. So I got hurt in high school, so you know, soccer was kind of off the table. I really wanted to, you know, play in college at a certain point, but then I got hurt, had surgery on my hip, so I shifted directions. But you know, I actually started in pre-med in college. So I went to the University of Arkansas, started pre-med. I got into all the sciences and was just like, wow, this is just not for me. So I made a pivot and I went the business route. So I've been pretty good with numbers. You know, math was a strong point for me in high school growing up. And, you know, finance was just something that I was kind of interested in. So I pivoted and went the business direction. And then right out of college, I got into banking. So yeah, it was more so, you know, I wasn't good enough at the sciences, which kind of made me change direction and get into business. And it turned out to be great. You know, I'm definitely more of a people person, and sales is something that comes pretty natural to me. So, you know, getting into banking sales was kind of a godsend after shifting direction in college.
Okay. So it sounds like you were pretty cool with the shift, and that's where you wanted to be. What was life like in the banking industry? Because I know you transitioned to something else after that, but tell me why you didn't stay there for a longer period of time than you already did. So how was that like?
Yeah, so I landed at a really great bank here in Nashville, Tennessee. It was called Avenue Bank at the time, and it was a smaller community bank, and they really focused on customer service. It was more of a kind of concierge type of service. So it was a lot of one-on-one interaction with our clients. They were bought out. So Avenue Bank was bought out by a bigger regional bank called Pinnacle, and things started to change. And I didn't really like that change. And I had already come to the realization that like maybe banking is not, you know, a 10-year, 20-year goal for me. So I had already started shifting to more interest in acting, and started with classes, acting classes, and I got an agent in Nashville and all that kind of stuff. So that had started before the bank got bought out. So I got to a point in my life where I was like, man, I want to do something that I'm really passionate about, something different. I feel like banking got a little bit stale for me. Banking is a great career. A lot of people are in it who are passionate about it. But for me, it started to, get a little bit stale toward the end. So that's when I got into acting, and I started doing acting classes, and I started, really pursuing that. Modeling actually took off way quicker than acting. So I kind of, followed that line, and ended up signing with, I had 6 agencies at one point, one in Dallas, one in Miami, one in New York, one in LA, one in Atlanta. So modeling really took off, and that's kind of what took me around the country. I moved to Dallas for a year. I was in Chicago for a year, and then I eventually made my way out to California.
Okay. I want you to, it shouldn't be hard for you, but it could be a tough question. Help kind of demystify the modeling world for us, because I know the people who will follow our show, who watch and listen, and they might see it as glamorous. But I mean, look, if you watch TV, that's what you see. You look at the magazine, you see the glamorous part of it. Take us behind the scenes a little bit of what the model life is like. You're talking about being all across the country, basically, signing all the different companies. What was the pressure like, the obligation, what you see behind the scenes that made you like it or not like it? Demystify it for us if you can, please.
Sure. So I had a great experience with modeling. It was, there are parts of it that feel very, vapid and, superficial. And, you're essentially judged by the way you look, and that can feel a little bit superficial at times. But, someone coming into it, I was 26, 27 years old. So I had a little bit more time to kind of understand who I was. I had, a little bit better of a foundation in terms of confidence. Whereas, a lot of people getting into modeling, they're 15, 16, 17. So it was a different experience for me, but I can imagine going into it without that foundation of confidence, how difficult it could be, because you're literally, you walk up, you're in a lineup with 5 other people who look very similar to you. They're picking you apart. They're saying, we don't like this about you. And then, it's pretty dog eat dog. If you don't fit the profile of what they're looking for, they're not going to cast you. And it's not like this, oh, thank you so much for coming. Typically, it's more like, okay, next, so it is very challenging, just depending on the market, depending on where you are in terms of your personal development and your confidence. And I went into it in a pretty confident state. So I think it was a little bit easier for me.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I want to get into some of your service work, your volunteer work. When I first met you, I found that part most appealing. I know that people say, oh, he's modeling, acting, doing banking, finance guy. He's doing all, traveling around the world. But the volunteer part, that touches my heart a lot. Talk to me about big brothers and big sisters in Middle Tennessee. It's something you've been doing with sustainable housing and helping families. Talk to us about that a little bit. Share your heart on that.
Avenue Bank really established my desire for helping the community. Community service was something that they really, really encouraged in that first job at Avenue Bank. And I'm so grateful for that. Because I've always had a lot of empathy for other people. I've always, seen the value of mentorship. I've seen the value of giving back. And as a Christian, I really value helping other people who are not, as well off as you are. And I feel like it's our duty as human beings to lift each other up. So I was at Big Brothers Big Sisters. I was the big to a 13-year-old named Savion. And I did that for about 10 years before I moved to California. And, it started as this kind of lunch buddies program where I'd come in and just have lunch with him. He didn't have a father figure in his life. And he was one of 4 children. And he was kind of seen as the adult in the household, which was so hard to see. But regardless of his circumstances, he always showed up with the biggest smile on his face. He was so eager to learn and to try new things. And, we would go to, the park and play basketball. We would go to lunch. We would go get a smoothie. So I did that for about 10 years. And we always talk about the mentorship process and how, the younger person, the mentee is gaining so much wisdom and knowledge and support. But the reverse mentoring process was profound. I got more from that relationship than I think he did. And I'm so grateful for that. I was a board intern on Big Brothers Big Sisters board for about a year. And just hearing some of those stories and the transformations of those kids was absolutely incredible. But I was also on the homeowner selection committee at Habitat for Humanity of Greater Nashville, and got to work with a lot of the families as a budget coach. So I would help them budget and prepare to become homeowners for the first time for our program. And that was equally as rewarding as Big Brothers Big Sisters.
I love that, man. I'm big into mentorship. We didn't get a chance to discuss that in our pre-interview, but it's part of my life in ministry, mentorship, coaching is just part of my life. Tell me how that process ended, because when you step into mentorship, sometimes parameters had to be set beforehand. Sometimes it's going to be maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months, maybe it's going to be a number of years. For some people, they mentor until the person doesn't want to be mentored anymore. It could be a lifetime relationship. You mentioned 10 years with Savion. Tell me how that ended. How did you feel about how it ended? The impact you took away? How was Savion doing? Talk a little bit about that if you don't mind sharing that, if you can.
So when I say ended, essentially it lasted for 10 years. And then I moved to California, but we kept in touch. I still have his phone number. I still check in on him time to time. He reached his teenage years and late teens, and I think he's at a point to where he wants to be a little bit more independent, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I actually love that for him, but I'll check in on him, every now and then. And, the conversation's a little bit more sparse now, just because I think he's becoming his own man and, wants to do things his own way. So definitely hasn't ended, but we're kind of transitioning into less of a, hands-on, everyday kind of check-in type of situation.
Makes sense. So today, post Savion, post the Big Brothers and Big Sisters, talk to me about who you are as a mentor today. Do you still enjoy that? Have you evolved in the whole idea of yourself being a mentor? Are you pulling away from it a little bit? What's your feelings on it?
So I am always open to mentor. I'm coming into a period of my life where leadership is a really big aspect of my life. And, I serve at the church. I also lead a marriage group among peers through my church. And my wife and I are conducting it based on the book Meaning of Marriage by Tim Keller. So that has been a really, really fun aspect of leadership in this stage of my life. Mentorship, it's probably more indirect than direct mentorship at this point, but not around a whole lot of, young people. But I think indirectly I'm leading a group at church, and that feels, more like a mentorship situation for me.
Makes a lot of sense, man. A lot of sense. So a lot of diverse stuff going on in your life, man. You've done a lot of different things. You probably considered a Renaissance man. I should have announced you that way as a Renaissance man.
I try to be, I'm very curious. I feel like, I have a lot of hobbies. Sometimes that is to my detriment because, I'm kind of a master of none, but, I'm pretty good at most things. Yeah. I've tried pretty much everything in terms of, exercise, sports, those kind of hobbies. I'm really trying to hone in on career and try to, make sure I'm not just like mediocre at what I'm doing in terms of helping people with their health and wellness.
I love that. You mentioned the book by Tim Keller. I'm familiar with him, but I wasn't familiar with the book, Meaning of Marriage, I think you said.
Yes, sir.
Talk to me about, just before we get into your marriage later, but I want to kind of just ask you a quick question about it here right now. How do you feel like you've evolved in your marriage based on what you read in that book, what you learned through that book? How have you grown in that situation?
The book has helped me in a lot of ways. The book has really helped me understand the biblical view of marriage.
Okay.
A lot of times nowadays, couples will not see the value in a covenant marriage in terms of a relationship with both your spouse and with God. So viewing it as an agreement to my wife to be a certain way, to do certain things that help uplift her, to be her friend first, and not just an intimate partner. There's so many different little tidbits in the book, but overarching, it's more so, how can I serve her instead of what can I get from her? That's a big part of the book that has really helped me, waking up every single day and how can I serve her? How can I put her first? How can I lift her up in her career, in her interactions? And that's been one of the biggest aha moments for me. It's not about me. It's even not about us. It's about, how can I serve her in the best way possible?
I love that. I want to get more into this. I have a lot more questions in regards to just your community work and just your public life and your life of service. But talk to me a little bit about your wife. How did you guys meet? Everything surrounding that, and then kind of parse that what you just shared about you growing in marriage, because I'm sure that you probably didn't. I'm sure that was your first marriage. I'm assuming, so you probably didn't have a whole lot of ideas about how to do this. I saw a model with your parents, but you probably didn't know yourself how to be a husband, because that was my situation more than 30 years ago. So I was trying to figure out how to do that, how to be that. So share about your wife. How'd you guys meet? How do we know her? Go ahead and share.
Sure. So my wife's name is Hannah. She's very well known in a lot of circles. She was on several TV shows prior to me meeting her. So she was on The Bachelor. She was on The Bachelorette as the Bachelorette. So she had 30 some odd guys vying for her attention and love.
That's crazy.
That is a show that I haven't watched yet. I haven't watched a season that I haven't watched yet. I don't know if I want to see her kissing 30 different guys, but no, we kind of joke about that at this point. But she's amazing. She basically everything that she touches turns to gold. She was on Dancing with the Stars. She won Dancing with the Stars right after the Bachelorette finale. So she went straight into that. Then she was on a show called Special Forces, where it's basically 10 days of just this.
I heard about it. I didn't know she was in it.
You gotta watch it, man. It's 10 days of rigorous training that Special Forces troops actually go through. So the goal is to last for 10 days and not tap out. And she lasted. She won. So, she's an incredible person. I'm inspired by her every single day. And we met on a dating app. We met in California when we both lived there. We were both in Venice, California when we met. Hit it off. I had no idea who she was when I went on the first date. Got to know her pretty quick just because it was, kind of the start of COVID, and we were inseparable since. And she's amazing.
So many more questions to add to the questions I already had. But okay, you mentioned a few interesting things. I'm gonna start with just one. You said you met through a dating app. Now, I'm asking that because there are a lot of feelings or emotions from people around us about dating apps, what they like, what they don't like, why it's good, why it's not good. You guys had, I would assume you had a network around you, people that you can meet, people that introduce you to other people. You have people, friends, and that kind of things. Why did you guys decide to go the dating app route as opposed to the so-called traditional way of meeting people?
Great question. I can speak for myself, and I'll kind of touch on why I think she did.
Okay.
But a dating app for me was casting a wider net, so to say. I think that in California, LA especially, there are just so many people, and I didn't want to go the typical way of meeting a girl at a bar or anything like that, just because I wanted someone who was like-minded and shared my values. And you can kind of you can tell based on someone's profile and what they write what kind of values they have. So it was more of a initial vetting process so that I didn't waste her time and she didn't waste mine. So that was kind of my thought process behind a dating app. Also, I was really, really busy, and it saved a little bit of time. I would have loved to just like casually run into her at the supermarket or something, but yeah, that just, for me, it wasn't going to happen because I was, working downtown. I was living on the west side, and travel was taking up a lot of my time. So for her, I think that she was trying to get back into the dating world. She was she was on the Bachelorette, and it didn't work out with the guy that she ended up with at the end of the show. And she was actually creating a YouTube series on re-entering the dating life. So, I actually looked at her YouTube after our first date, and she was basically documenting all of these dates that she was going on.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I could have been one of her YouTube posts about how the date didn't go well. Thankfully, I was not, but that was basically the series that she was putting together. So she got back on a dating app because she was getting back out in the dating world.
That makes a lot of sense. You mentioned how everything that Hannah touches turned to gold. I remember the old, what's it, a story or a fable about Midas? Remember the old fable? Midas turned to gold. That's a huge responsibility, but it definitely comes with a lot of incremental success. Tell me how, if you could speak for her in this moment, because she's not here, how does she handle that? Because if you're successful in everything that you do, it has to do something. It has to be an impact on you. Everything you do, it works out for you. How does she handle this?
That's a good question. That would definitely be a question for her. But if I were to guess, she handles it really, really well. I mean, it's not one of those things where I don't think she goes into things, preparing to win and then how she's going to handle it. I think she just goes in, gives it her 100% effort. She puts everything into everything that she does, or she does it. She's kind of, all in or nothing. And that's kind of how I am. So we definitely relate to each other in that. So I don't think she's, really even thinking about it. She's just thinking like, I'm going to go in this and put everything that I possibly can into winning this, whatever it is, or doing my best in this. And that's kind of her mentality around everything. My word for this year is excellence, because I see so much excellence in her. Something that she says is, if you're going to do anything, do it 100%. Something, I'm paraphrasing that. I probably just butchered that, but it's like, if you're going to do it, then do it. Like give it 100%. And I would imagine that that's kind of how she would answer that.
Oh, that sounds about right. Now, I don't want to make assumptions, but some of the things that you shared about Hannah suggests to me that she might be a bit of a risk taker. Because to me, to go on Special Forces, I mean, all I've seen was clips, because I don't do a lot of TV watching, but I do run into things in my limited TV watching, and the commercials, at least, how these are clips anyway, so you know how it is. It's trying to promote something. They seem intense to me.
Yeah.
To do something like this, and then to even put yourself out here, everybody knows you, and you're out here on The Bachelor. Because I forgot about the fact that she was on The Bachelor. I forgot about that part. I know about The Bachelorette. So she was doing this. That's risk, to put yourself out here with these people, you know what I'm saying, and put your life basically on the screen in front of everybody. Do you view her as a risk taker? Do you see that in other areas of life? Do you know that before you met her, or is it something that is kind of just a new evolution of Hannah, if you will?
I definitely think she's a risk taker. I think that, putting yourself out there, being in front of, millions of people is taking a risk. I mean, you risk, your character, you risk public humiliation, you risk a lot of things. And it takes a lot of courage to do that. And I think that's why people are so drawn to her. She is someone who people really relate to, because she's real. She's not putting on an act. What you see is what you get with her. And I think that's why she was asked to be the Bachelorette after being on The Bachelor, because she said it like it was. Like she almost didn't have a filter, which sometimes got her in trouble, but she told you exactly what she was thinking and feeling. And people can really relate to that, because they're like, oh, I was thinking that same thing, but you just said it. So yeah, she is not super risk averse. I'm probably more risk averse than she is. But I admire that so much about her. Like, to go on to Special Forces, Dwight Howard was on there, Danny Amendola, like two very successful athletes, pro athletes, and to outlast them and to beat them and to think that you can.
That's incredible.
It's crazy. Yeah, she's very, very open to risk.
Now, this could be considered a private conversation, so if you can't answer, you can't answer. But can you explain for us how she described the fact that she's won that competition against all these highly athletic people? Can you describe for us or share what she shared with you why she believes she's won that?
Sure. Yeah. With her, she's really great at compartmentalizing. She's very, so she would tell you this. She's ADHD, so she has trouble focusing on multiple things at once or managing multiple things. But if she has one specific goal, if there's, Dancing with the Stars, for example, she just knew that she had to show up every single day and get better at dancing and crush it on the nights that she had to dance. Same thing with Special Forces. She was just like, I have one goal. I need to make it to the end, and I got to do everything that I have to do that. When she has that singular focus, she can do pretty much anything, in my opinion, because everything else extraneous, everything else on the periphery is not existent. I tell this story. She had an opportunity to use her phone call. They give everyone a phone call on Special Forces, and pretty much everyone did use theirs. Hannah did not. She did not call me. She did not call her parents. She did not want to check in because she knew that it would take her mind out of the goal at hand. So that's just a testament to who she is and how focused she was. But I would say that her ability to compartmentalize on one specific goal was what got her to the end.
It makes total sense. All right, so I'm not a big reality TV person, so hopefully my questions don't sound clunky regarding that, because I don't know a lot about that world. I see things like everybody else does randomly. Can you take us behind the scenes of this reality TV opportunity that she had with the Bachelorette? What's going on? What's happening behind the scenes? Can you kind of demystify it for us? Is that something you're allowed to do? If you're signing an NDA, no answer. But I mean, I'm just kind of wondering what it's like behind the scenes from her perspective, from your perspective, even just being a husband. What's this life like with paparazzi and all the public attention? Kind of talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So I wasn't there whenever she was on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, but obviously after the fact on different shows that she's been on. But she is recognized out in public quite a bit, especially in Nashville and LA. I mean, it's not unusual for us to walk down a busy street or go shopping and be stopped and pictures and all that kind of stuff. Paparazzi isn't bad, especially in Nashville. LA, whenever we first started dating, we did get hit with some paparazzi just because she was getting back in the dating world. She was a bachelorette and people wanted to know who she was dating. So it was challenging at first, but she handles it really well. She's great with fans. Anybody who wants to walk up and take a picture, she introduces herself. She's very cordial, and she will take the time to get to know you. And something else I admire about her. She's not really rattled by that. So in terms of how she handles it, I mean, she handles it better than anyone I've seen. So yeah, she's kind of built for it.
Okay. How do you handle it?
At first it was tough. I was essentially, picked apart by certain people that followed her, and, they just wanted to make sure that I was worthy of
oh my goodness, really?
Yeah, make sure I was worthy of dating their favorite reality star. So
wow.
Yeah, it was challenging at first because anything I did, anything I said, anything that I had put out to the world via social media before meeting Hannah was scrutinized, was kind of picked apart. And, I kind of went into a little hole for a little bit. I didn't post anything. I was very, tight-lipped, and I just wanted to appear as this buttoned up character that was worthy of dating Hannah. So it was challenging at first, but I kind of found my way with it. Now, it's like I'm just going to be me, and some people are not going to like me, some people are going to like me, but that's with anything, and you have to realize that, especially when you have a little bit more eyeballs on you. Things that you put out will be received by the people that need to receive it, and things will not be received by the people who don't need it or don't want it. So that comes with anything. But I would much rather be in the arena. If you know the quote by, I think was it Roosevelt or Eisenhower or something? Basically, the man in the arena. You want to be the man in the arena, not the bystanders who are criticizing the man in the arena. So that's what I'm attempting to do at this point.
Okay, I don't know who that's by, but I like it though. It's good. Right. So you shared about the anxiety of the engagement season. What do you think created the tension during that time for you guys?
What created the tension, you said?
Yeah. Yes.
In our engagement, like leading up to marriage?
Right.
There was tension around making sure that everything went well in terms of the wedding. We wanted to throw a great party. We wanted everybody to feel comfortable and inviting. We wanted to be an inviting atmosphere at our wedding. So there was a little bit of tension around that. Otherwise, it went pretty smoothly. Like, we had a great wedding planner. We were pretty dialed in that aspect, but leading up to it, it was a little bit challenging just because we were worried about everybody else instead of us.
That's I want to come back to that, but I did see some of the pictures and look like you guys do. It looks different to me. I don't know. I'm seeing it in still photos, so bear that in mind. But it looked like it was just different from a normal wedding party. It looked like it was fun. It looked like it was family and friends. It looked like it was like it wasn't a wedding, but it was. I mean, she was in a wedding dress, so yeah. But it was just it was so inviting and welcoming. So I think you guys achieved that. Now, that last comment you just made, talk to me about that a little bit.
About worrying about other people's experience instead of ours. Yeah. That's something that we had to work through for sure. That's not something that we went into the wedding with, but we were really focused on making sure that everybody had what they needed. We wanted everybody to have a good experience with our travel planner. That was tough because, she wasn't super responsive because she had so many people to handle. So we were pulled into that a little bit, and we had to kind of refocus and put our attention on, like, this is our wedding. This is our day. We need to make sure that we actually enjoy this process. And, people are, everyone who's coming, they're grown-ups. They can figure out how to get there. They can figure out where they're staying. They can figure out where they need to be because we have a good wedding planner. So there was definitely a moment of refocusing and putting the focus back on us and our enjoyment of the process.
I love this. So obviously you have a very, I guess you still have a public relationship. I guess I can still say that. But you definitely did back then. What did you learn about boundaries, love, identity? What did you learn about that? What both of you learned about that since, as you're walking through this very public relationship? What you guys learning about love and boundaries and identity?
Boundaries, as in our boundaries with the media and with other people.
Sure, and then of course the space you give each other, the things that you need to understand about what each other needs, all of that stuff. Please share.
Yeah. Boundaries are challenging because, Hannah makes a lot of her money, all of her content is kind of surrounding our day-to-day lives. So there has to be kind of time blocks of like, oh, okay, we're gonna film something between 2 and 4 today. The rest of the day, we'll put our phones away. We will create boundaries for ourselves so that we're not completely locked into our work. And that's something that we established pretty early on. There are things that she has to get done throughout the day that require, us being on camera and, on social media and all that kind of stuff. So that took a little bit to kind of fine tune. Otherwise, it's like any other job. She has to clock in and clock out, so to say, and put it away whenever she's done with it. So yeah, social media is a beast. It's one of those things that can really draw you in and consume you, or you can be diligent about those boundaries, and it can be a great tool, and it can be a great way of connection.
It's total sense. Total sense. So you talked a lot about your volunteer work and your heart for service. Sound like Hannah has a very busy schedule. Is she involved in some of your volunteer work? Does she have a heart for service like you do? You don't have to compare it, but I'm not asking for that part. But do you guys share in that work? Is that something you do together now, or is it something that's kind of like your thing and she has her thing? How's that work for you guys?
She is definitely involved. I mean, we run the marriage group together. So, the group is full of couples, and we do it through our church. We don't have a curriculum, but we basically came up with our own curriculum based on the book Meaning of Marriage. And she definitely has a heart for it. We serve about once a month. We'll go to food service companies and hand out food to the homeless, and we try to do at least one thing like that a month. But then with our marriage group, we meet every other Sunday. So yeah, servant leadership is something that we're really focusing on in our relationship, especially.
I love it. I'm going to share a quick story to kind of preface my next question. I'm from probably one of the most popular cities in the entire world. So I've been around celebrities. I've been on trains and with them. It's not surprising to be walking down the street and bump into them literally. I don't really get starstruck. I used to go to a church in Florida. I can't name it because it was that well known, full of celebrities, full of baseball players. In Florida is where the baseball players would go for the spring. So you see them. They actually live out there, which is convenient for them. So I've seen them all the time. I've seen politicians and actors. Everything in the church, never get starstruck, never ask for an autograph. You guys are faithful members of a church. Tell me what you're seeing in that regard. Are you seeing people getting starstruck, or people they understand that you guys are real people and not just public images? Do they understand that? What are you seeing, Adam?
Yeah. So we have so many friends at our church. There's not a whole lot of there's definitely no issue with Hannah being well known and our relationship being public, but no, people see us as human beings because we are that way, and we treat people that way. There's no arrogance or air of superiority. There never has been with Hannah. That's just not who she is. So people will come up and introduce themselves if they know her, but it's really casual. It's not something that really goes to her head, and it's a very casual atmosphere when we go to church. We love it, and there are other people who are well known that go to church with us, and it's a very inviting atmosphere.
No, I love it. Love it. All right, so our conversation, you're doing mindfulness and wellness coaching. Speak to the modern man. Say, what kind of principles do you think modern men are missing most in their pursuit of success and health?
Ooh, that's a really good question. There are so many different ways to skin a cat, so to say. But being
you
never heard that? That must be a Southern thing.
No. I heard it. It was many years ago. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. Well, I'm pushing 40, so I'm an old soul, I guess. Things that men are missing. Structure, I think, structure and discipline.
Okay.
There are so many different things that you can change about your life with just a little bit of discipline and consistency. In terms of health, being consistent with your sleep schedule, being consistent with your diet, being consistent with your exercise routine.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be complicated, but it has to be structured and it has to be disciplined. Working out one time a week, eating right, every other day, it's not going to get you the results that you're probably going to be looking for. So consistency is really important, and discipline is something that most successful men have, and those that don't have it are typically not going to be successful in whatever pursuit they're going after.
Makes total sense. I like that, especially when you're 30. I'm way past that now. So, but full disclosure. But you are the VP of Business Development, I think, and a health coach for Blokes Men Health. Talks about Blokes and how you're dealing with business but still caring for people at the same time. Talk to us about that. How you
my life? Yeah, great question. My life is pretty much structured around helping people. So that's how I want it to be. I feel most fulfilled when I'm helping other people live their best life. So at Joy and Blokes, that the company, Joy is the women's arm, Blokes is the men's arm. We just kind of combine the names, and now it's Joy and Blokes. So we are a telehealth company. We focus on really extensive diagnostic labs. So we get your blood drawn when you come to us, and then we interpret those labs and offer different treatments. A lot of them involve hormone replacement therapy, peptides, targeted supplements. So those are kind of the three main categories that we focus on. But it's a holistic health telehealth company. So we're not trying to give you a pill for an ailment. We are trying to work on the foundational issues of health first by getting your blood drawn and seeing all of your diagnostic labs. So I work with patients one-on-one throughout the day. I also work with ambassadors, influencers who are using our product just to get our name out there. I go on podcasts and speak about the company quite a bit. So my job is to put more eyeballs on the company, but also help patients one-on-one.
I love it. I love this. All right. So you talked about finance. You talked about modeling and acting, public life stuff, service. Tell me what ties all this together, because I don't believe these are all random things that we just do. And this is the coach in me coming out and now asking this question.
Mm-hmm.
Thread that ties all this together, because something drew you to all these places. What do you think that is? The thread that ties it all together, your entire story. What do you think it is?
Man, what a great question. I could tell you individually what drew me to each of them, but I think what ties everything together is just the need to be better. I think that, I kind of hit a stale point in banking. So that led me to acting and modeling because it was a challenge. Modeling turned a little bit superficial, and I didn't see a whole lot of me focusing on other people, which is one of my big values. Like, I want to be a servant leader. I want to help other people. So that led me to a sales job where I could help people more. And I think that, I'm just trying to level up in every area of my life constantly. So if I see that I'm getting a little bit, in the mud in something, then I have to make a change. So I think that everything that ties it together is probably just overall personal development. Like, I want to grow. I want to become better in everything that I'm doing. And if I feel like I'm losing momentum, then I have to pivot. I have to make a change. And I think a lot of people can get stuck in what they're doing. And I have gotten stuck before. And changing direction is a lot of times what we need. So I think just consistent growth is what ties it all together. That's a tough question, man. That's tough.
This is what I do on this show. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. I mean, it gets you thinking about, like, a lot of times for me, it's hard to plan for the future. It's hard to plan 5-10 years out. But when you ask questions like that, you kind of look back, and it's easier to connect the dots when you're looking back. So yeah, I think that I just, I really want to grow in every aspect of life. And I feel like if I'm not growing, I have to pivot. And that's what leads me to the next thing.
Well, definitely. I'm a big believer in learning from the past. I just don't want to live there.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah. So last couple of questions for you. What advice would you give to somebody who is struggling with which path to choose? Because you had the opportunity, as did I, to take the safe path. My mom didn't want me acting. I was trying to do soap opera auditions at all my children.
Yes.
I was trying to be a New York Yankee. I was trying to be at the School of Performing Arts. Those are not safe choices for her. She'd be like, you know what? Find something like engineering, something with math. So you can have, that kind of thing. Or authentic path. Some people are faced with both choices. A lot of the time we are. The safe choice and the authentic one. How do you encourage somebody or give some advice to somebody who's pressured with that kind of decision? What would you say to them?
That's one of the most challenging decisions because you want to be authentic, but you also have responsibility to yourself, to your family, to God. And I think that, authenticity, if you can be authentic in what you're doing while also pursuing something that satisfies those human needs of, providing for yourself, providing for your family, fulfilling you. If you can do both of those things, that's the ultimate. And advice around that is very specific to the person, but finding something that is authentic to you, that aligns with who you want to be and how you want to show up in the world, that also can, very bluntly make you money to be able to survive and to live, I think is the ultimate goal. I think that pursuing things that really light you up inside, that give you confidence in what you're doing, something that is going to help the most amount of people. But it depends on your values. And, some people don't value helping a ton of people. Other people value just like really focusing on bringing in money so they can take care of their family. So there are different values that you have to evaluate in order to determine if that next path is the right one for you. But it takes a lot of, self-reflection, a lot of discovery, and it's not always an overnight aha moment. A lot of times it takes a lot of redirection and fine tuning. So not a simple answer,
Yeah.
But just keep at it and continue changing path until you find the right one for you.
Well, Adam, you're an incredible person. You are definitely a Renaissance man for sure. You got an amazing story, a very blessed life, man. It's been an honor to have you on here, man.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a very enjoyable conversation. I appreciate it.
Same here, brother. Take the next 120 seconds and kind of just let folks know how they can support you, how they can find you if you want to be found. I don't want to assume that. If you want to be found, how can they find you? How can they support you? Whether it's with Joy and Blokes, however you want to be reached out to, let them know how they can do that today. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm mostly on Instagram, so you can find me on Instagram. It's ADMANDEW.
You follow me on Instagram?
Yeah, I think I follow you. If not, I'm going to right after the show. But no, I'm mostly on Instagram. So hit me up there. Also, joyandblokes.com. I mean, if you want to take control of your health, first step is filling out a health history form, and we take care of the rest after that. But yeah, I'm available via Instagram and happy to help in any way that I can.
Thank you very much for your time. But it's been an awesome conversation. Please give mine and my wife's best to Hannah. Talk about that guys a little bit. We are excited about the conversation today. So my wife will be excited to see it and watch it, but give her our best, please. And thank you for your time on this and do it. You're a busy man. So thanks for being here and do this interview today. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. For you guys that are watching and listening for the very first time, in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, the QR code. You can grab that to find out all of the shows that we've done on our brand and all of our one-on-one episodes with awesome folks like Adam. So thanks again for your time, for watching and listening. We're on all social media platforms, primarily Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And of course, on Apple Podcasts, you can drop us a 5-star review. Let us know how you love our show and what you want to hear more of. Thanks again for your time and watching and listening. Adam, thanks again for you. Have a great day, guys. I'm Mr. U.